Hey y'all, I'm back in the studio finally, and today I have something super special planned. We are going to play the interview I did a little while ago before I was sick and sounded super bad with a local Farmington band, Complete Utter Opposite. I'm so excited. This was so cool to finally get into like the interviewing era of WUMF, even though it came with its own set of challenges that are totally on me. So shout out to the band for being so chill and so easy to work with through this whole process. And yeah, I'm really excited to share this with you guys. So kick back, enjoy the inside look, and then hang around and we'll play a couple new songs off their new album. Today we brought in local band Complete Utter Opposite to do an interview and some promotion for their new release and upcoming album. So let's just start with some introductions. So can you tell me a little bit about each of you and your kind of position in the band and how Complete Utter Opposite came about?
There's only three of us, so it's pretty personal, I'd say. Reed and I have been friends forever, just kind of started playing, and Jared came along not long after that, and we've been writing songs since then. So this upcoming release is something we've been working on for a long time. We're just really excited to share it with everybody.
Awesome. So the name Complete Utter Opposite, what's the story behind that and how do you feel that it like represents you guys as a band?
I feel often as artists we're categorized in genres, and I never really felt like we fit well under any title. So I just kind of picked something that was the complete utter opposite of everything else, something that was totally unique. And so I just settled on that. I think we're too much of everything to be considered anything. So we just kind of fall in this weird middle ground. And so I chose that name, and I think people will relate to that.
So what makes you guys so opposite of everything? What's, particularly unique about your guys' band?
I think our sound is one big thing. I've heard people call it grunge. I've heard people call it alternative. I've heard people call it just rock, but it's indie. Yeah, we've had a couple indies. So I don't know. I just think our sound, not to get too personal, but I just kind of feel like always just going through school and stuff, I never really fit in with anybody. And I think these guys can kind of relate to that too, being young or even not being young and just trying to worry about fitting in with people is something that everybody struggles with. And so I feel like for me, this is a place where I can just be myself and not worry about what anybody thinks or not worried about fitting in with anybody else.
How old are you guys?
19.
19.
Oh, 19. I think that's like kind of impacted how you approach the music scene or how it's been maybe different for you guys?
I mean, we started doing this when we were, 17 and 18. I don't really know if it impacted how I approached the music, but I think it definitely impacted how the music approached me in the way that when you're young, you change so much, even just from week to week, your mood or the way you act or your energy just totally changes. And I think that's reflected on our upcoming album. There's just a lot of different emotions and a lot of different, just feelings and stuff, just because we were all changing so much as people at that time. So I think it definitely impacted our sound. But yeah, I never looked at my age as a restriction on the things that I could do, and I still don't.
We never really cater to a style. So whatever we write or however the song sounds, it reflects how we're feeling when we write it and our improvisation.
So we've been talking a lot about this upcoming album coming out on November 8th.
Yeah.
Tell me about this big album.
Nothing in specific. It's I think that title in itself, it reflects kind of what it is. I wanted it to be something, at least from my point of view, like writing them. I want the songs to be something that, wasn't too specific to anybody, that everybody could relate to. So I titled it that with the idea of hopefully there's something for everybody, I think. And so I think there's a lot of different, like I said, a lot of different emotions on the album and a lot of different sounds because we have been working on it for so long. Like I said, we started writing songs in 22 and we wrote our first song in 22 and we finished our last one a couple months ago, and they're all on the same album. So we've worked a lot on this and put a lot of time into it. Hope people can relate to how vague it is, I guess.
Like open-ended.
Yeah.
So you guys just released your first single. Like, what's it been like to get to this point?
Surreal, I suppose. I remember the day it dropped. It was just really cool to be able to see something, have something tangible. Because for a long time, music can be tangible or untangible. You make it for yourself. You make it as an expression of who you are. But for the past 2 years, that's all it's been. It's just a piece of us that we reflect every week in practice or when we play gigs. But we finally have something that other people can relate to as well. And I think that's kind of untangible in the way that we write it for ourselves, but maybe other people listen to it and hear something totally different that we never intended the meaning behind the song to be. But that's what's great about music, is that everybody can take it in their own direction and relate to it in their own way. And that's really what I'm trying to encourage with this upcoming release.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because one of the questions I had was, what should listeners expect from it? And what it sounds like you're saying is like, don't expect anything.
Yeah.
Or expect everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Complete utter opposite. I'd like to say it's nothing that anyone's ever heard before in terms of sound and in terms of the songs themselves and what they're about. And hopefully my goal is to have them be about something different for every person that listens to it. Hopefully there will be multiple different meanings to the songs, or even hundreds of different meanings to the songs, depending on how many people listen to them. I want them to be unique to every person that listens to them. I want them to take them in their own direction and encourage that for everybody.
Would you say, even though it's kind of its own standalone project, that there were still like musical influences that's kind of impacted your guys' production?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not really contemporary, where a lot of rap is popular now and pop. A lot of our influence is 90s grunge.
A lot of earlier stuff like that. We have bands we listen to. I got a Nirvana album cover tattooed on the back of my leg. So, there's definitely bands that
You need to show me that.
there's definitely bands that I relate to more than others.
Yeah. I think we all have, each one of us has vastly different taste in music. It can be contained in the same genre, but there are a lot of different bands that we all personally listen to. And I think a lot of our playing and stuff we put into our music reflects a lot of the influences that we have.
Yeah. And I just think we have influences on a personal level. We all have a different job to do. So the drums will sound, you might be able to relate it to another one band, but maybe the vocals and the bass will sound like another band and the guitar will sound totally different. Like, it just ties back into the complete utter opposite thing. It's all just, we're still trying to figure out what our sound is. But I think at the end of the day, I'd say especially my biggest inspiration is these two guys. I think we inspire each other, which I think is what separates, I think, a band with a good dynamic from maybe a band with not so great of a dynamic, is how well you inspire each other to do what you love,
Yeah, that's really nice. So, particularly talking about T-0, are there any like particular inspirations or unique things about that track?
There's this one song that, a 90s song that was about the post-apocalyptic Earth, I guess. I don't know, like, just about like the end of the world, basically. And I think I kind of related to that in a way, because I see the way that the world is and some of the cruelty in our world. And I think if we keep treating our planet and people the way we are now, then it's just going to be a wasteland and not a world that I would want to be a part of, one that's filled with hate. And so I kind of use that as like a metaphor in the song. In the song, it's talking about how there's no more peace and how there's just destruction everywhere, which I think could be what happens if people don't, I don't know. Sounds cliche.
Well, it's true. Sometimes it kind of does feel like the world's ending around us. But it's kind of interesting that you guys chose music as a way to express those views, because you could have chose any other form of like expressive art. You could have been a writer. And in a sense, you are a writer, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So why music? Why is that the modality that spoke to you guys?
I think it's different for all of us. I played cello in the 5th grade and I hated it. I just hated being told what to play, and like none of that ever made sense to me. And so I think Reed was the first one who wanted to play music or found music as a way to express himself. And I didn't want any part of it, if I'm being honest. And then just sitting down and playing with, my best friend was like so real for me. And that's what inspired me to do it. Like I said, it was Reed and Jared, just being around two people that I care about. That's what inspired me to do it. But
yeah, I've always been really attached to music. I've always had a love for it for as long as I can remember. Every memory I have really is tied to music. I connect it and I see it in terms of music that I was listening to or music that I loved at the time. And it's just always been there for me through my life. My dad was a musician. He played in a band. My grandparents were great musicians too. It's just been that one thing that's always been there in my life. So kind of felt right. Feels like the right thing to do.
I always played music in high school, and my dad was also a drummer. So it's just always been a fun hobby I do. You know, if you can do it with your buddies, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we all just kind of are inspired to do it from, where we come from. But, I think it's for everybody, and I think anybody could do it. And I think that's why I take huge inspirations from older bands, or like he said, like Reed's dad was in a band. Like they didn't care about if they were good or who listened or what it sounded like. They just wanted to do it because they loved it and they could express themselves. And I think anybody can relate to that.
So, what has it been like being a band in sort of a small town like Farmington? This is kind of a unique experience. You guys are young, you guys are in a town like this, and you guys are choosing to do something that Jared said earlier, like it's not contemporary. So, what has that been like for you guys?
I mean, it's a bit of a challenge to get traction, but that's not something that really bothers me. Like you said, I think it makes it more unique. And I've always kind of thought that we have our own place in the world, really, or in time, kind of like this is our moment. This is our generation. This is our town. And we get to hopefully leave a mark on it. That'd be cool. And even if we don't have a bunch of people listen to the album, just for us, we'll always remember it. And the people that matter, the people that care about what we're doing, they'll always remember it too. And so I think I think it's special, I guess is the word I'd use.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of hard things that come with being from such a small town and trying to do what we do here, but also it's really fun. I mean, we get to play shows around here in this little small community, and we get to see all the people, and it's really intimate. It's fun to get together with a bunch of people who love the same thing.
I would say we're very limited by the scene. There's not a lot of live music in Farmington, where we have to depend on social media a lot to get publicity or book shows with people, to meet other bands.
Yeah, it's a struggle, but I think that makes it that much more special. We're still doing it regardless of the challenges we're facing, and I think that's special in anything that anybody does.
You guys also seem to be like pretty connected with the community, like those small local gigs. Can you tell me about some of those?
I remember a comment Jared made a few months ago about just recognizing the people in our crowds is really cool. Hopefully when the music drops, we'll get more and more people, and that'll be great to just share it with as many people as possible. But right now it's, just sharing it with people that are, like I said earlier, from this same place and in the same time that we're in. And I just think it's special, that we play shows, fairgrounds or places like that. And it's just cool to see people who haven't necessarily heard of us just kind of come up and start taking videos or, calling their friend and putting us on speaker or whatever. So the person on the other end of the line could like hear the music that we were making in Farmington, Maine. Like that's really cool to look out and see some of my friends and see some other people that I know, and then a bunch of people that I don't know that are taking videos or, like I said, have us pulled up on a phone call so other people can hear us. Like, I just think it's really special.
So, upcoming album, then what? What's next for you guys?
Well, like Mason said, we've had a lot of these songs, a good chunk of this whole album been written for a year and a half. So during that time, we've written a lot of songs that don't really fit in with the rest of them. We've been getting a lot better at what we do. So we've got a lot of songs that don't really fit in with this album. And we had to decide whether to put them on there or to keep it as it is. And we decided to keep it as it is. So got a good chunk of songs that we have ready for another album that we can hopefully work on after this. Hopefully whatever the people want is what they get. Ideally, we always talk about, playing shows, doing chores, dropping more music, like he said, and, we're always writing new stuff. So, I'd like to leave it open-ended. I think it is open-ended right now. A lot of opportunities. We just gotta find people who are interested.
This has been something you guys have been working on for a really long time. How would you say that maybe the way you've been recording, writing, producing has changed over time, like if it has at all?
I think our writing process is really, and I think it's always kind of been the same. I remember Reed and I just started playing in a shed at his house, and it was just, it was fun, but there was always something missing. And then, we ended up finding Jared, and I just remember, for me anyway, the first practice is just all three of us at once were just kind of on the same page, which was really, really special. And I think our songwriting process is really special because it's not something that we all kind of have an unspoken role, but we it's not something we talk about. You know, it usually starts with Reed writing a riff of some kind and Jared will put a rhythm behind it, and I'll just kind of fill in from there. But you know, it's not something that we talk about. You don't sit down and, you know, hey, let's write a song. You know, that doesn't happen. Just we'll jam and we'll find something we like, turn it into a song, and that's really all any of our songs are. It's just glorified jams, basically. I think that's what makes them so special, so raw.
I want to hear a little bit more about like the uniqueness about the way that you guys write and record.
I don't know. Like I said, I think what makes it special is that we don't try. We just do it and it clicks. And like I said, I think that's what separates a band with a good dynamic from maybe a not so good dynamic is how well you guys work together. But yeah, we all kind of have this unspoken role, but that doesn't mean that we don't give each other ideas. I've had, you know, Reed give me ideas on lyrics to write, and Jared's given ideas on guitar riffs. There's one song on the album that the entire riff was written by Jared, which is, you know, it's just how it goes, you know.
He's the drummer, right?
Yeah, Jared plays drums. So, you know, sometimes one of us will just have a good idea, and even if it's not our instrument, you know, we'll just kind of pitch it. And I think especially these two are pretty good with music. I mean, what do you play for instrument?
Just the main three, drums and strings.
Yeah, and I don't think there's an instrument that Reed can't play. So, and I play bass, but we're all giving each other ideas all the time. Even if we don't know the notes, we'll kind of hum it in our head, or at least I do. But yeah, we're always pitching each other ideas and bouncing things off of each other. And it's never set in stone. And there's always things that are changing. Or sometimes one of us will be like, hey, have you heard this song from this artist? And we'll go and listen to it. And there'll be like one small little part in the song or a certain effect that they use that will be like, wow, that'd be really cool on our song, and we'll use it. And I think our songs are constantly changing, which I don't think there's any recording of our songs that sounds like any other recording of our songs, because we're always, like I said, all of our songs are just glorified jams, so we're always just jamming and hanging out and having fun.
I think in terms of recording, this album sounds very, very unique because of where we went to record it. We went to this awesome studio, and yeah, right off the highway in Bethel. You never find it when we were going there, but
we just missed it. Yeah,
drove by, had to pull into someone's driveway to turn around. But it's really cool. It's this old couple who live in this nice house on the hill. Inside, it's just a like full-fledged studio, and it's really awesome. It's got a very unique sound. It's really homemade. I mean, it still sounds really high quality and professional, but it's got this certain vibe to it that really shows through on the recordings that you just can't get anywhere else.
How'd you find it?
It was the first place that popped up on Google.
Yeah, it was just an old farmhouse, and I remember walking in, and I guess they used to do producing. Ted and Connie are their names. They used to do producing down in Boston in like the 60s and 70s. So we walked in, they had like a bunch of 60s and 70s recording equipment and just a bunch of old, like crazy old stuff. And they actually worked with a band that ended up later working with Van Halen. Like they've been around, and you know, like he said, it was very nice to just go in there. The energy. I mean, you ask any artist that makes any kind of any art, you know, the energy is always important, and the energy there was just great because, you know.
Did you have any idea walking in that?
Not really. We had seen it on a couple pictures on Google, but yeah, not really.
Yeah, we also paid out of pocket to record this, so go listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. It was I think when you're a young artist, it's easy to like cut corners, either due to a lack of experience or a lack of funds when you're young.
Like a $11 Amazon microphone that recording on.
But we really didn't want to cut corners, at least with our sound quality. And so we wanted to go to a studio. And I think this was a perfect match for us because we wanted something that was really raw, and they had a bunch of old equipment. And so that made for a really raw sound. And our energy when we were there was just great because it didn't feel like we were in a studio, you know? There wasn't a bunch of people breathing down our neck. There was, you know,
just Ted and Connie.
Just Ted and Connie, and they were great, and they were really nice, and they knew their stuff, and it just made for this really raw, really retro kind of sound. And I don't think anybody will ever be able to. I don't think we'll ever be able to duplicate it, nor do I want to. And in a way, I think it'll always sound a little unfinished because we were able to beat the lack of funds. Like he said, we paid out of pocket, so we were able to beat that, but the lack of experience, we weren't able to outrun it. So, you know, it's just raw. I'm happy with them, but they're just raw. And, but I think that just makes them that much more special. So
Right, and which would like the type of music you guys come out with,
Right.
that's more an advantage than a disadvantage, if anything. What'd they think of your music?
I don't know how much they get for bands there. I know they do a lot of people that go in there to record. I think they said they had someone recording like books or podcasts there or something like that, but I don't know what they really do for music anymore. I know they did a lot in the really from the 60s through the 90s. They did a lot of music, but I think they slowed down. They moved to Maine, but I think they liked us. I mean, it was only ever positive feedback. So
Just
yeah,
hearing some of your stuff, it's just, and listeners will get this once they hear the single, but thinking of it being recorded in essentially like an elderly couple's house,
yeah,
it's just kind of funny to think about.
yeah. I think it's radical. Really, I think it just makes it that much more special. It's totally unique, and we were able to get a piece of that because this older quality, this older like sound of music. I mean, equipment only lasts so long, so I think it was cool to get a piece of that. And before people have totally lost track of it, in modern day just culture and stuff, I guess. But yeah, it was definitely an experience for sure. I remember the place where Ted and Connie would do the mixing. It was their living room, and they had it set up right in front of their television. And we would just sit on their couch while they would mix our music and just be like, "Yep, sounds good," or "Do this." And then in their other living room, because the house was huge, so they had two living rooms. The other living room, they had all their recording equipment, and that's where we would go. But yeah, it was very well set up for someone's house, and it was a gorgeous place. But
I think that's my new retirement plan.
I think it's ours too.
Just mixing right out of the living room.
Yeah.
So, are there any standout tracks that you guys are especially excited about people to hear?
I don't think so, really. I mean, we don't really have any favorites. They all work really well together. I personally don't have a favorite track off the album. I like them all equally, I guess.
It's like asking someone to pick their favorite child. They're all special, I guess. Like Reed said, they all work really well together. And I think we have a strong track list too. There's a lot of different emotions and they all work well together. And there are some songs that just due to where and how we recorded them and when we recorded them, like Jared said, we paid out of pocket. So we weren't going to the studio consistently. We couldn't afford to. So sometimes it'd be months in between recording different songs. So just due to that, some songs sound a little bit more advanced than others. I know Dead With You is a track that's just really, it just sounds really well done. And then we have other, like 17, for example, is another track that's just very raw and just very noisy. And I'm okay with that. I mean, that's what we were going for with that one. But some of them are definitely more professional, I guess you could say, or whatever. And some of them are definitely more garage band styled. I think overall, I don't think there's any one song that's better than any other. I think we're all really proud with the songs that we wrote. And regardless of recording quality, you can't kill a good song. A good song's a good song. So I think we're decently confident in what we've done.
So you guys have another track on T-0
The single, yep.
called Thong Song. Tell me a little more about that one.
Yeah, it wasn't really one of those songs that fit in with the album. It was a little bit more raw than I think any of the other songs in the album. And it was actually Reed's dad, like he said earlier, was in a band. And in the 90s when he was in high school, they wrote that song. And I remember we were in Florida, yeah. And somehow it got brought up, his band, and he used to play bass, Reed's dad. And so he was playing around with that riff, and I thought it was cool. And so we just kind of adopted it for our own, and he tried to remember the lyrics. And I think he only remembered one verse. So we just reused the one verse twice. And then, like I said, we're really good at jamming. So we just turned it into a jam after that. And I think it has a trademark now as being a very, very fun and very loose. We play it different every time we play it. Just a very loose, very fun jam song. And but yeah, Reed's dad wrote it and we liked it. So we just kept it and put it on the single. And right now it's our most popular song. So yeah.
It's kind of weird. It's really fun though. They never had any recording, so it's kind of cool to make it, real, to get it put down and have it to a point where you can listen to it. I think, it's pretty cool. I think he thinks that too.
Why did you guys choose those two songs?
There was a lot of songs that could have been the single. One of them is titled Unsure. It was really good, but we wanted to save it for a more important spot on the album. The title track of the album, Nothing in Specific, was also really good. It was the first song we ever wrote, so we thought about that one, but didn't want to release the title track and confuse people. So we just chose T-0. It's the second song we ever wrote, and it has a very big presence, I think, a very big presence on the album, and a very big presence when you hear it. It's and then, like I said, the reason we chose the other one was just to because it didn't really fit in great with the rest of the songs in the album, because it wasn't ours, so we just threw it on there, and I guess people like it.
So we're gonna play T-0 after this, and we're hopefully gonna get that CD in and play your guys' album. So if you want to leave the listeners with one thing,
we're just getting started, I guess. So tune in and be able to say you were here at the beginning. We're ready to go. So just really excited, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, that wraps up our complete utter opposite night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and make sure you listen to Nothing in Specific, their new debut album, out on all streaming platforms now. I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for tuning in to WMF 91.5 Farmington, Maine, the noise you can't turn off.